Hey guys, it's Brian from PhoneArena, and we're going to take a quick look at the newest BlackBerry Curve, the 9350 from Sprint. Now, in terms of the Curve, there's not a whole lot new. We're pretty familiar with the Curve design, although they have tweaked it some. It looks a little bit more like the Tour of old. So one of the nice features now is that these edges are tapered, so you can see where they taper there, and then again they taper on the side, which means when you're holding the device, your hands really wrap around it. This device is really small. We've got medium-sized hands here, and as you can see, this thing is being swallowed up by my hands. It's only 11 millimeters thin, which is pretty thin, but with this tapering, it feels even smaller because of the way your hands wrap around it. So that's one of the really cool features for some people. For others, it might be a little bit too small, especially when we're taking a look at the keyboard here. These keys are spaced pretty close together with a small form factor, so that might be an issue for those of you who have larger hands or larger fingers. In terms of the design, nothing really new. You got your keyboard, you got your trackpad, and your BlackBerry buttons, and then your 2.4-inch display. It is a VGA display with 16 million colors, so it is a high-quality display for what it is. One of the weird things is on the side here, you can just see these little flaps, really. They're not even buttons, we'd call them. They're just kind of rubber flaps, and you can move them a little bit if you play. These are actually, this is the convenience key and this is your volume rocker, so a little bit different than what we've seen on previous Curves where this trim piece here was thicker and you had more of a bump covering. So it took us a second to actually figure out what these were. It's just a little strange. And then the back cover comes off with, you got to get your thumbnail or your fingernail right under the right spot. Kind of hard to do sometimes. As you can see, there we go, and you can see it's got a really tiny battery. It's only 1050 milliamps, and that means it's only good for 5.5 hours of talk time. So some of those really heavy BlackBerry users may not find this to be the best device for them because of that. And then you have the microUSD card slot down here, along with the 5 megapixel camera with the LED flash. Does not record HD video like the original press release says. Only has the VGA video, but images were okay. The video was actually pretty smooth. We were surprised by that, and definitely YouTube quality. And then up along the top, you've got your 3.5mm headset jack and the lock button. So the phone feels a little bit plasticky. It's very, very light at only 3.5 ounces, 99 grams. So the device really gets lost in your pocket. With those tapered edges, it slides in really easily, and just kind of, it's so light you never even notice it's there. This will be a great device for some of those with the smaller hands. We imagine it'll probably be a hit with the female crowd because of the size. But for some people, it might be just a little bit too small, actually, which is kind of odd to say. This is running the new BlackBerry 7 operating system. There's really not too much to talk about here. It's laid out pretty much exactly like 6 was. We did look at it a little bit more in depth in our Bold and our Torch reviews, but really it's just some speed improvements, some under the hood things. So everything runs really smoothly. We don't have any issues with it. It's still a menu-driven system though, so it's very antiquated. The trackpad is getting less and less fun to work with in the days of touchscreen devices. So this has been the biggest problem for BlackBerries, is the menu and the operating system. Like we said, it is very menu-driven, and that's just not what we're used to these days with devices like Android and of course iOS as well. The new browser is not too bad. We've got the WebKit browser here, so everything moves pretty quickly, but as you can see with the trackpad, it's just kind of a pain to navigate. We're connected to Wi-Fi right now. Page loads are pretty good. It's going to take a second to fully load this. It's just that last little half that always seems to take a while, but it's just kind of unintuitive to be navigating this with the trackpad. So they've done a lot better job than earlier BlackBerries for sure, but at the same time, touchscreens are really becoming the norm, and it really becomes a lot less natural to be using a trackpad to do anything. Probably the biggest knock we're going to have on the new Curve 9350 is the call quality. Callers were really disenchanted with how we sounded. They said that we sounded like we were talking through wax paper, that we were very distant, very garbled, just all kinds of not good things to say. And to us, it almost sounded like the microphone and the earpiece were connected. We could definitely hear ourselves. There was a muffled reverberation almost that we could hear when we were talking. So overall, a really poor voice experience. If you're looking for a BlackBerry, they're better options, to be honest. You know, there's a lot of different phones out there. The Torch and the Bold, like we mentioned, are better, have better keypads, or the all touchscreen. We really are particularly fond of the Bold with the touchscreen and the full keypad. Kind of appeals to both sets of users. But all in all, the Curve 9350 is probably a device you want to avoid at all costs.